There we go. Has anyone tried out Firefox 4 beta?
It's still in beta.
I heard it is fast. I have it installed on my systems, and it is certainly faster than 3.6. Some people say that it is faster than Chrome beta. Yeah, so
Chrome is still in beta. Chrome is still in beta.
I think Chrome is still in beta. It has never been released. Yeah. Yeah, but the speed up is not with just normal browsing, but mostly it is with JavaScript. The JavaScript engine itself was a lot more efficient in Firefox 4. I was actually impressed.
When was the update?
It's not an update. It's not really available yet. So when you go to Mozilla.com, you have to look for it. You have to look for the beta. So it's not officially supported, and they make it very clear this is a beta version. So occasionally it will pop up a dialog box and say, "Okay, do you have any feedback for us?" Okay, so that if you have any feedback, you can send it back to them. It might be, if you just search for Firefox 4 beta, you should be able to find it.
There was a link on the previous page you were on.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right at the bottom.
Oh, right here. Firefox 4 beta is out. So you can give Mozilla feedback. It's pretty easy to I can install it in Linux, just like that. It was just unzipping a file, moving the file into a certain folder, and that was it. In Windows, I would assume it's even easier. Just run the executable, and that's it. The only problem with Firefox 4 is if you have a lot of plugins for Firefox 3, most of those plugins will not work in Firefox 4. So, but if you don't use a lot of plugins, I would say at least give it a try because it is faster. Okay. Any questions about Firefox 4? You can now also get Firefox on mobile devices, on your cell phones. It is also a beta version. I could not get it running on mine because my cell phone is kind of old. It doesn't have all the necessary resources like processing power and RAM to do it. But a newer cell phone should be able to do it without any problems. Okay. So I think more choices is good. Choices other than WebKit. It's always good. All right. Well, there are a few things we can continue to talk about. How to put a PC together. But before we do that, let me just kind of give you guys a few things. It's exciting to me, but it may not be as exciting to other people. I would even let you guys pass this around. This is the front panel of a smoking machine. I'm pretty sure I have talked about a smoking machine before. No? No? Oh, okay. I can't imagine I would not talk about that. Okay. This is a part of my consulting job, which was actually not a, I have never ever, advertised to be a consultant of electronics and whatnot. So the jobs just somehow found me. I did not go out and look for jobs. But anyway, it was a fun project. It was really a fun project. This is the front panel that belongs to a smoking machine. And the machine, named smoking machine, is literally a smoking machine. The way it works is it has a carousel, with 10 slots. Each slot can hold, exactly one, cigarette. And there's a pneumatic mechanism, using air to push a cigarette into the carousel, rotate it. There's a little lighter, and that's also a puffer, which is basically an air pump. So the whole setup is to emulate, how people smoke. And then all the smoke, the inhale smoke, as well as the secondhand smoke, the smoke that is, what they call bypass, will be fed to exposure chambers with a petri dish and test animals and whatnot. So the machine was basically set up so that they can, give animals, or petri dish and other stuff, the exposure of, cigarette smoke and find out, what are the effects of, a particular brand of smoke, of cigarette, or whatever. Okay. The guy who did the smoking machine, he's a machinist, okay, and a very, very good one at that. He has dabbled in electronics, he knows, some electronic stuff, but he's not a programmer. He does not understand how to write programs. So his first design worked okay, but it required a lot of tuning. So from time to time, If the motor turns slower than usual, he has to adjust things. There are a lot of stuff to tweak. When I took over the project, I turned it into a digital project using an existing circuit board that you can buy off quote unquote off the shelf. But at the time it was actually coming from the company that I used to work for. Okay, but it's a product you can just purchase. And then later on, because of reliability issues, we decided, okay, maybe we should just make our own board of doing it. And this is the result. On the back, there's a this is the main circuit board that does most of the work. It does all the calculations, like when do you actuate this plunger, when do you actuate the carousel, when do you turn on the heater, how much do you turn on the heater, and so on and so forth. So the brain is on the biggest circuit board. It has only one big chip. Okay, that one big chip is the brain of everything. It costs about $11. And the circuit board itself is more expensive than that, because it's on a per square inch basis with circuit boards. And then there's another board here. This little guy here has a H-bridge. Basically, it's a stepper motor driver. Without that, I cannot drive the stepper motor and make it rotate. It also has one bigger transistor to turn on and turn off that heater. And then we have another board, down here, which is to the back of the LCD. That's the LKM or LCD keypad module. Its only job is to communicate with the end user. It has got 10 buttons. So when it starts up, you can hit a button and go into a menu to set up all the parameters. You can control the number of cigarettes to smoke. You can control on time versus off time. You can control how hot the heater or the lighter can go, because you don't want to burn off the filament prematurely, but you still need it to be hot enough to light up the cigarettes. So the whole thing is a control application. And this one I brought in because it was being repaired. So I had to get it back to the guy today, and that's why I have it with me. But you guys can take a look at it. And I just thought it's a fun project. Okay, it's somewhat interesting to me. This kind of project is going to be more and more common because the cost of the hardware and the ease of making the electronic printed circuit board is getting easier and cheaper every day. Okay, what used to be expensive, difficult to do, is now fairly easy to do. And you will find more and more applications that can use quote unquote a brain. Okay, experimental setups and whatnot. I mean, this thing will cost him, including labor, this will cost him about $500 or so, which is not a whole lot of money compared to what the cost of his machine itself. This is only one component of the entire machine. It's a $500 component of a machine that will sell for $20,000. But without the $500, the $20,000 would be useless because there's no control system to manage all the resources. So that's the first thing I want to kind of mention. That's kind of interesting. The second thing that I want to mention is, has anyone ever considered doing PC support at least on the side until you have a full-time job? Okay. How do you guys are you guys doing it now, or just still thinking about it?
I do a little bit of overflow.
Okay.
For PC watchdogs.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own website.
Okay.
My friend runs it.
Okay.
But we do it from the point where we log into the computer and we see if they have viruses.
Okay. And do you see a growing job market for that sort of work?
Yeah.
And that's because the number of computers is increasing. We find computers everywhere now. More and more people have PCs. But does managing a PC get easier these days than before? It's even harder, right? Because with all the patches and also the higher frequency of patches too. In the good old days with, let's say, Windows 98, how often do we get a patch? Not very often, right? But these days, how often do you get a patch from Microsoft? Every week. Okay, every Tuesday is called a Patch Tuesday because on Tuesdays, Microsoft released their patches. What about Adobe, if you have Adobe products? Okay, they have their patches as well. PDF or the Acrobat Reader is not well known for being a secure application, so they patch it all the time. What about let's say the Java engine, the Java runtime environment? You get patches for that too, right? But to an end user, when these messages pop up, you need to upgrade this, you need to patch that. Do you think they know whether this is the result of a legitimate software saying I need to be updated, or could it be malware trying to install itself? They could not differentiate. Okay, most people cannot. So that means support is a big issue. Is this the kind of job you can outsource to India or China? Not easily, okay? If you can trust someone to operate the PC remotely, maybe, okay? But most of the time, people prefer to have, someone local come to their establishment, usually a business, and say, okay, I want to kind of look over your shoulder to see what you're doing so I can kind of learn, the rope a little bit myself and stuff like that. So I think for the most part, these jobs will stay local instead of getting outsourced. So that's another opportunity. And then the third thing I want to show you is this. I'm not sure whether I can do it here. Probably not. I'll just point you to the product that I was using for this purpose, and then you guys can. I think it is a .com. Yep. Okay. Has anyone used or know what ZoneMinder is? No. Okay, ZoneMinder is kind of interesting. If I just take one of the screenshots, you will see what it is. Okay, let me see if I... Okay, this is one screen of ZoneMinder. ZoneMinder is a free open source program that can do surveillance. Okay, it can do multi-monitor or multi-camera surveillance. This is a picture that is taken from a black and white camera. But it is also doing motion detection. You can see the highlight here. It is basically highlighting the portion that has motion, that has changes that is beyond a particular threshold. Okay. Now that thing still has some tar on the outside, so just be careful because it's a little bit sticky, and do not lick it, please. As tempting as it is to lick the tar, it is not good for your health. So, but this is open source. It is free. And it can be used to hook up to USB webcams. It can also be used to, you can also hook it up to IP cameras. Okay? You can use it for recording purposes or just monitoring purposes. It hooks up to the external world by a web server. Okay? So if you install this program on a computer, that computer becomes a web server. And you can connect to the monitoring software to review the video, clips and whatnot remotely using just a web browser, nothing more than a web browser. So I find it to be kind of interesting because in terms of job opportunities, I can see people whose only profession is to help businesses and homes to set up monitoring systems like this and also maintain it, because it's not easy to set it up. But at the same time, the software is free, so basically people can just charge for the labor and also the cost of maintaining and upkeeping the system, maybe even the cost of installing the hardware and whatnot. But there are possibilities out there, because the software is there, it is available. If you have multiple webcams, you can connect to multiple webcams at the same time. I tried it yesterday, in my car because when I bought the camera, it did not say it's compatible with Linux. So I took a risk buying a $15 webcam, because I wasn't sure it will work with Linux. When I hooked it up to my little netbook and ran the software, to basically connect to a webcam, I saw something, but not something from the webcam, itself. So I was a little confused. As it turns out, the netbook itself has its own